Hello again, welcome to a new series. Today I am going to do a playthrough of my first ever scenario, Delta-5. So in this series, I'm going to play through it, finish all the goals, and maybe just decorate it to match the scenery of this planet. So the goal at least we have right now is at least 250 guests, 500 guests, 1,000 guests, and have an operating profit of $2,200, and then sell tickets of 1,500 per tickets. So let's get right into the time lapse. Okay, let's start off with our first ride, and I think I'm going to choose the Orbiter. So when planning a park, when I think about this stuff, I don't really try to plan it out because it gets too frustrating or too overwhelming sometimes. So just placing down something in the park or in the scenario that you're in helps without filling in the area. So I've decided to put down Orbiter. I've used Orbiter Flat Ride before and a number of other parks and projects over the times, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to build some type of power plant or factory facility, stuff like that. So I'm just going to sit here and just mess around with pieces and shapes and stuff like that. Delta-5 was my first scenario that I've ever started and ever completed, because I never did anything until recently. So how the map was made was I just did the regular, the terrain generator. I sent that off to be default. I made hills and valleys, and I made it one color. I made it stone. Yeah, I made the stone color here. And then I added little patches of dirt and stuff like that. And this map was I don't know, it maybe only took me maybe a day to complete. It's one of my fastest maps that I've ever done. It wasn't really how to explain. It was just kind of put itself together in a way. It was my first map, and I kind of gave myself pretty large goals, so this video will be actually longer than my other videos, and this probably will be a 2 to 3 parter video depending how fast I build. I've been kind of losing inspiration this past week working on this map, but I kind of got some inspiration again. Been jumping around between other projects again, stuff like that, and yeah. So it's a nice idea to kind of go back into my scenarios, because I play test them, just placing on rides as fast as possible and see if the money works out, stuff like that. But playing it again and trying to decorate it is kind of an extra challenge, and I'm going to try to do that. And again, this is more sci-fi stuff, which is still a hard thing to get hold of, because sci-fi stuff is somewhat in the future. We don't know what buildings are going to look like in the future, so trying to guess what that is going to be one of those challenging things to figure out. So yeah, I'll constantly be doing some sci-fi stuff. So you see here that I'm just going to place some pipes and some cylinders to get some idea of this could be some type of giant, not a giant facility, like a small generator or a small power plant that's connected to this ride. I try to think of putting buildings and covered queues for most of my rides to give them some of that, I don't know, more feeling of that this place is established or something. What the one problem with, I don't know if I would call it a problem, it's more like a difficult challenge to work with this game, is that all the shops that you pick from this, that you can place down, stuff like that, are all included. They're all by themselves on one tile. They have pretty good decoration, and just placing them all over the place would kind of be cheap and easy to do. It wouldn't really match your scenery. So I try to utilize that. I try to basically put them in a building to then match the scenery around it. And I also try to build buildings that are useful instead of just making them props. I think that's sometimes a challenge for me, is that I want to make sure that every building that I build has a purpose instead of just being a decorational item. For example, in this map, there is a small little colony toward the center of the map. That's just for decoration. There's really no purpose for it, and it's there just to catch your eye, basically. And same thing with the the beginning of the map where there's the airport, or the spaceport as I call it. That spaceport is not really there for anything but for maybe the guests to spawn and come into the map. So that's kind of the difficulty doing some of these park builds and stuff like that. And planning out a park's layout is, I find, pretty difficult sometimes, and I try to make it as, I don't know, cohesive as possible. Not side note, this is more of like an observation. So as you see here, I put the delivery pipes above ground, so I wanted to try to incorporate them into the scenery and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to like decorate them or something to give them the positive scenery rating and stuff like that. So you'll see me decorate that in a second. So I'm building this food court here with a simple depot, and then I have the pipes going to the main depot. So we're gonna build some type of simple sci-fi building, more, I don't know, more curves, more shapes, more towers. Towers apparently look good as a sci-fi building, and pipes and gears and fans. Still pulling a lot of inspiration from ArtStation website and other things like that, maybe other video games, stuff like that. So I try to get a lot of inspiration from other places, but without burning myself out. This map's been taking a while to actually complete, and I think I might do a redo of this map. I think the $30,000 is actually a lot in the beginning to give you, because at this point the game's paused, and I've only burned through just about $7,000 to $8,000 I've already burned through, and that's just scenery and just that one ride and the paths. So not really a problem playing this map. This is like one of my easiest maps. Some of people said that this is a harder map. I don't think it is that hard. It's actually quite easy map, but I'm quite experienced in this game now at this point, so I don't know the perspective of some other people's playability or how they think of how money should be used or utilized. So, but I think also that this is more of a challenge that I have to get 2,000 guests in this one, so I know I have to place a lot of rides in this map, maybe like, I don't know, maybe 3 coasters and maybe like 12 flat rides or something. I haven't gotten to that point yet because I've only filled the map from this point on, from this recording, I've only filled the map up like maybe 40%, and I need to watch myself not to overcrowd myself. So that's always something on to do. This building here, it's just I don't know what's model after. It's just kind of like just cylinders and circles and curved walls, kind of the thing to do. I like to use in the concrete walls. They represent really good for like some type of sci-fi building or some type of like colony building. I might have to maybe drown out the colors a little bit. I think they're a little too bright maybe. But yeah, this building I think turned out pretty well. Just doing some more pipe stuff and things like that. And then putting down some of the janitors and mechanics, stuff like that. Here I'm going to cover up the piping with just cylinders, and that actually blocks the negative decoration rating. It's actually pretty cool. So I was waiting for them to do that. Quick cut to just back to finishing the tower of this food court. I think the food court has burgers and soft drinks in it, and I priced those at, let's see, what do I price them at? The fries, I priced them at about $4, the burgers are $5, and the drinks are $4. And guests don't really complain about that much, and I think that's a good pricing for those items. And you can get pretty good money from shops if you price them correctly. Like maybe like $5.50 would actually be good too. So just trying to get a feel of how this map's going to turn out, because you don't know the end result, and that sometimes can be frustrating to think about what it's going to look like, or you try to plan too ahead. So I try to just start building instead of just like planning where all the paths should go and stuff like that. And even though there's a path already kind of designated for you, it goes right toward the center of the map, toward the little colony area. So it kind of gives you an idea what to do. That's why I try to build some type of building in the maps that gives you inspiration to build with the same theming or the same design, so that doesn't seem so like daunting to fill up an empty map, because I think filling empty maps is the most scariest thing to do for me, especially because it's like, oh, what do I put in here? I don't know what to do. So little details like this in boxes and stuff like that. More fan stuff. I learned this from a friend. I think it's cool to use the gears as like fans or intake valves and stuff like that. I think that's a really cool idea. So it's just more antennas and stuff like that. And things. Don't mind me laughing. Someone's in my room. Back to what I was talking about. Pipes, more pipes. Yes, that's all we need to do is more pipes. So, and these little awnings, these glass awnings got a new update in the last patch. They are now colorable two ways, so the glass gets colored and the metal frame can get colored now. And I really appreciate that it was added recently. And so that was like a godsend. Like, oh my gosh, they finally got some customized stuff to it. Like, yes. So onto a second building. This would be the second ride. I decided to make some type of small, I don't know, apartment building slash maybe it could be a grocery store. I don't have really names for it. It's just a building. It's kind of hugs around this pipe and stuff like that. So I'll just kind of fill that in. This is where it's gonna go, is going to be the motion simulator. Yes, motion simulator. Usually I try to make 2 motion simulators, actually, like they do in Star Tours at Disneyland, but that's sometimes not always necessary to do that, because one ride will always be utilized and one ride won't be, unless you want to try to maybe make them 2 different videos. But 2 different videos have different run times, so that changes the, I don't know, the output, or the output basically. So just basic building with a tall tower to catch your eye. It's always the nice thing to maybe do is build a rectangle building and then maybe add a tower or some type of chimney on it to give it some interest. And then you add more details like windows, borders, you add air conditioning vents, more pipes, things that you would see on a building in real life, stuff like that. So pulling inspiration like that is what I think would be key to do so. So it's just some type of outpost that's being built next to this space. I keep calling it. It's a spaceport. Well, it's not really a spaceport. It's outside, so it's more like a regular airport but with spaceships. So, yeah. Regardless, I digress. So here I'm adding like this interesting idea to put like some like glowing rings around the top of the building. I wanted to try to make sure that it was connected, but I gave up on that quickly because it's like there's a detail that you really don't need to put in. It's such a small detail that it wouldn't really matter. So off to building some pipes with maybe cylinders instead of the regular pipes from the game. I wish the pipes in this game were colorable, but I work with what I got and just go with it. But that's one of my wishes, would be that would be somewhat colorable. But using shaped cylinders as pipes is a good way to go too, because you can change those colors. You can change the sizes you want to. You can make them giant, small. Then you add little rings to simulate their I don't know, their joint parts or something like that, or their soldered parts, as you can say. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else I did to this map. Really, this map wasn't that hard to make. This was kind of like the jumping point for me when making a custom scenario. I was like, is it going to be hard to make? Is it going to take too long? And it kind of didn't. It actually kind of pulled itself together quickly, and that was a surprise to me, how quick I was able to put this scenario together. Because originally when I got this game in 2017, when it was still in early access, I just built a lot of scenery stuff and kind of played around with building parks on my own, on my sandbox stuff and things like that, and not really like focused on making cool stuff. The funny thing is, when I played RCT 1 and 2 and then 3, decorating to me wasn't a big thing in the beginning. Like in RCT 1, didn't care to decorate, just build as many rides as I can to finish the objectives. In RCT 2 was kind of the same, didn't do that as well, just kind of like just built coasters and rides. But when we got to RCT3, I tried to decorate more often because it was in that 3D vision, and that really kicked that off. I played RCT3 a lot. And then Planet Coaster came out. I tried Planet Coaster for a little bit. Planet Coaster is a good game. It has some really good flexibilities for customization. It didn't have the basic money aspect or management that I truly would like from Planet Coaster. If Planet Coaster had a better management system, I probably would be playing that more often. But also my computer doesn't like to run that game as well as Parkitect. So when I heard Parkitect was being made, I jumped on it right when it came out in early access, and I've been playing ever since. And decorating in this game is also very rewarding too, even though it's on a grid base. And that's also the challenge, is taking a grid base like this and trying to build unique shapes and stuff like that. Besides, I'm kind of cheating. I'm using Construction Anarchy mod, which I cannot get rid of because I love it too much. It's just addicting good way to build, because I like making things offset. Like this restroom here has that offset of that side of the building in the back to make it look unique. I want to try to maybe do less of Anarchy to try to make maybe more maps or maybe making more creations more unique. But without Anarchy, I can't do most of my basic like props that I've been making, like cars and robots and dinosaurs that I've done. Dragons, I've done that too. Oh, there's some ideas for this map, for this scenario run, as I call it. I want to do some giant like cruiser that's flying in the sky somewhere. I don't know where that's gonna go yet. I don't think I should plan where it goes, but I want that in this map because it would make sense to have some type of cruiser coming by to maybe drop off passengers or supplies at the spaceport, and then this is some type of small like junker village. That's why each building kind of looks different and not like unified. So I will try to. Yeah, this is kind of they're not unified. So we're gonna jump off to building my first roller coaster, and I opened the park at this point to start actually making money. Even though I'm only down 11,000, I still have a lot of money to play with actually. So this is gonna be my floorless coaster. So this coaster wasn't really modeled by anything. It's just I needed a throw ride to kind of fit in this area. I kind of like the idea of making some type of maybe ram's horn in the back here to kind of fill in this back area, because I kind of cut myself off. When you build buildings like this, you kind of cut yourself off. And so I thought, okay, well, this is the best place maybe to put like a significant part of the roller coaster here to catch guests' eye from the beginning of the park. They will see it on the other side and they'll be like, oh, I want to go on that ride, and then they'll go toward it. So placing the roller coaster like this kind of like makes it like an advertisement, basically. Testing out some ideas to make it go over the orbiter. Didn't like that idea. I kind of wanted to make it like compact enough that it's in its own little thing. I have a behavior of making my coasters way too maybe wide, way too much space instead of being more like confined. But playing a scenario like this kind of forces you to play more conservatively and more compact versus playing on a sandbox map. Sandbox maps gives you this like ability to do anything you want. That's also why I like playing with money. It gives you that challenge of, oh, I have this much money, I can only build so many things, but I still want detail, and so I'll try to use different parts to simulate those details and stuff like that. So that's why I've been doing some of the original scenarios for scenery runs, and now trying to do it with my campaigns is going to be quite interesting, because I know that some of my later maps are going to be more difficult. So there is my floorless coaster. I don't know what I named it. I think I named it Space Force or Star Force. I can't quite remember. I have to go look this up later. But I'm going to build some type of station. This station kind of was difficult to design. I kind of was having some like creative block in this session. That's been happening when I think too hard on what it should look like, or I want like full on detail instead of just being a box, because a box is kind of boring to look at. So I try to make it as unique as possible by adding different shapes of rectangles extending off another rectangle, and stuff like that. So I'm gonna just sit here and kind of like mess around, and that takes up a long time just kind of staring at it, and that's kind of maybe the bad thing to do. Don't stare at a building and start maybe placing things. I think that's what would be the best suggestion. Just start placing things as fast as possible. So you see some walls erected. This is going to be like some type of military base. I think I wanted to make it some type of military base or some type of military like communications outpost or something. Over here I was trying to think of maybe putting it over here, the parking or the maintenance house for the coaster. I scrapped that idea later on. I might add it in later for realism, but you don't need to do a transfer track for realism. I just like doing those little details because it does give it some more character, and it gives you some more like, oh, it's realistic to the point where, oh, this is where they store the cars at night or something. So I will later get rid of that or close that wall up. So yeah, I just let the game run as I build around it. So this is where the money starts lowering really quickly because they start spending money crazily on scenery and stuff like that. I'm only making about $800 at this point, which is actually okay, and I'm gonna have 191 guests. So there's no time crunch on some of my scenarios. Some of my later scenarios has a time crunch. In this one, there's no time crunch to worry myself with, and I kind of just gonna go as I go, just kind of go with the flow and kind of build on and build some details and stuff like that. So we're gonna build. I'm gonna build here some type of like support beams to hold up a overhanging like part of the building. I might add more to the building later because that's what I like to do. Build some type of structure, and then later on add details to it to maybe like give it more character, more detail, and then it will start growing again, basically. There, I'm gonna name it Space Force. Okay, there's the name. I kind of named it very generic. It helps with the decorations, basically, if you name it. It kind of gives you an idea of what this is. So this is some type of military base, communications, maybe a training facility with motion simulators or something, but has a roller coaster as your maybe testing thing. So this is a quite popular ride in this park so far. And this is one coaster so far. I haven't built a second one yet, but I will. But hopefully this little series will only be maybe 2 videos, because this so far is like already 2 hours in at this point building the coaster, because everything else has been like just staring at other things or researching and kind of like thinking of what I could put in, and that kind of takes up a lot of time. And I try not to do this, but it just came to the point where like, I need to record. I need to like either stop recording or recollect myself, and that's okay. You guys, you need to do that if you have to. So this was kind of like one of those things, but doing this has been fun because I finally got into the groove after I built this sci-fi base. Oh yeah, I changed the windows. A tip would be is if you want your windows darker, you can place more than one, and it kind of like stacks itself and it gets darker instead of just changing the color on the palette, because you can change it to dark, like you can change it to black. It won't be as dark as you think it should be. Just stacking it will help. But just keep in mind that the more scenery you put into the map, the more slower it gets. That's just normal for this game. And my computer can run this game pretty well actually. Just not Planet Coaster. But Planet Coaster is good regardless. So we're just gonna add this like observation building, maybe like a command center to oversee the facility. Across the street where the orbiter is, I've been thinking of putting like some type of seating area with an awning. I might do that. I might have to add a catwalk to this roller coaster to make it more realistic, or add some type of maybe like, ooh, a cover. A cover would be cool, like a tunnel cover or something that goes halfway up the chain lift. Never thought to do that actually. I might do that. Things like that. So I'm starting to think of like sci-fi things. Checking up on goals, basically, just quickly, but I'm not really focused on goals. I'm actually making lots of good money now. What am I making? 1,285. Wow, that's pretty good. That was last month. now I'm making 700. So it fluctuates because I'm just spending money on buildings and stuff like that. And yeah, also the thing is that I'm playing on like regular play. That's going to affect the value of each part that I put down, because they do drop in value, and eventually they'll become 0, and you can't get any money out of it basically. So we're gonna do another overhang copy over here on this end of the coaster, and this is wrong what I'm doing, because this is a giant door. I shouldn't put pillars in front of it, so I need to spread it out, stuff like that. I need to pick a color for this coaster because the default color is kind of like ocean feeling, so I might have to change it to something else. That might be later in post, like maybe I'd pick orange or something. I'll just keep. Yeah, I'm just thinking of things I could improve on this park, because there's a lot of things I kind of like skipped around because I was trying to figure out things to fill in, stuff like that. Yeah, this little building took a while. But I might add some things to it, like maybe an antenna, or maybe like a shield generator in the back. That'd be cool. I like that idea. Shield generator or something. So I'm adding a secondary observation on the other end of this facility. So, yeah, it's looking good. The little red building in the bottom, the little red and white building, that's a break room for my employees. I like to do this every once in a while, where I put the employee building like kind of in the middle of the map, but then decorate to make it purposeful. That's why I like making scenery that it has purpose, instead of just an empty building where it's just there for props. So I like to utilize and make my buildings useful, and that's sometimes the challenge, because there's only so many things you can do with a building, because it either can hold a ride, a roller coaster, shops, a break room, a training zone, maybe a depot, a trash chute, or maybe just a cashier machine, or an ATM as it's called. It's kind of I kind of like to use that instead of just making empty buildings. Buildings could be used as a placeholder, or maybe like a fill-in. It fills in the empty spots in the area or something like that. So we're just jumping ahead a little bit, adding more details. Antenna, satellite antenna on top, adding some type of pipes of some sort. Not sure what they are holding. Maybe they're holding COs. I don't know. They're holding something. But pipes and tanks are always a good way to go. So onto the new section of the park. This is kind of off toward the back, toward the motion simulator where the blue building is. So I've been seeing a lot of videos. I've been watching some videos on people going to the new Star Wars land in Disneyland, in Walt Disney World, Galaxy's Edge. And I've been looking at the buildings, how they're designed and styled, so it kind of looks like Tatooine. And so I kind of had the inspiration to build my own little Tatooine area with 2 rides attached to it. So right now I have the G-Lock and the Slide. And I'm going to try to build my own version of like Tatooine of a 2 in a way. And while building this, I realized that this is more brown and more, I don't know, darker in color, more well, rustic, and everything else that I built before it kind of looks too new. So I might have to go back in and change those colors a little bit, maybe darken them up, or make it a little bit more old or rustic, like a Junker Town or something. So that I might have to do that later, because I kind of jumped from a different sci-fi sub-theme. So there's a couple different sci-fi themes that I can understand. There's like nice and shiny Metro City, like it's shiny white and there's like technology everywhere. And then there's sci-fi dystopian, like Cyberpunk or Fallout. So that's dystopian. And then Star Wars kind of came in with their like, this planet like Tatooine is kind of made of sandstone and yet has technology in it, like they have droids and other spaceships, but their towns look like they're made of adobe and made of the actual planet they're from. So I kind of like changed the theme a little bit by doing this subland, but I like the idea of making this like a enclosed subland on this side to kind of give it a different feel versus the newer sections, or actually, well, it's actually the older section. This would be the newest section If you think about how it goes, you know. So yeah, I liked how I did the Tatooine stuff. I think this is cool to kind of do this type of Star Wars-y type of thing. I try not to copy, and that's the problem. I don't want to copy someone else's design. I will kind of pull inspiration from like copying some of the cylinder towers, adding some antennas, giving it that look. I might change some of these colors again. Always a good thing to do is change the color if you don't feel like it's different enough, because if you have one color palette like across the entire park, it would kind of look very blah, in my opinion, very blah. So I kind of like the idea of making every single building have its own unique characteristics, so you know, and you can tell apart from a distance or from a glance that, oh, this building's the power station, or this building is the cantina, or this building is the spaceport, stuff like that. So I kind of try to do that. So just adding details, cylinders. Cylinders are the most shapes. Always a fun thing to use, actually. Most fun thing I use the most, actually. So it's just some type of Star Wars-y looking front entrance, or like entrance to this land. See, it kind of makes, yeah, it's kind of like making a secondary land versus the front main street or something. So adding some type of closed gate, or a gate that can come down, that doesn't make sense because I just realized that the gate kind of disappears up, or maybe it kind of like maybe it folds itself upward. See, the logistics of like things like that you kind of have to think about if you want realistic stuff, but sometimes it really doesn't matter. It's at the end of the day, it's just a game that you're making up these worlds by yourself, and that's the challenging and maybe the daunting part, of making your own worlds basically, and stuff like that. So I changed the color of the slide because I was kind of matched it with the spaceport, but I kind of like the idea of making these more darker and more brown colors to match the Tatooine feeling, because that's kind of what it looks like and feels like. Adding more towers. I've noticed that in like just looking at pictures of Tatooine and or Batuu from Disneyland, so everything has like a cylinder saucer looking tower either on the front of the building, or maybe like the side of the building, to give some attention to drawing your attention basically. Same thing with like how the spires work in that land too, because the spires are kind of in the back and toward the main attraction, which would be the Smuggler's Run. It was kind of convenient that the depot connecting to the main depot kind of went underneath the ride and underneath the new buildings that I made in the back, and it kind of worked itself out. See, things like that, when they work themselves out, is quite satisfying. That, oh wow, it kind of like just planned itself out, and I didn't really plan it, it just kind of like formed there. So I'm just gonna make a simple like layout of this cantina. I want this like in the middle of the land, so you have these two rides in the front, they get your attentions, and then after you ride these rides, you are now hungry, you know, I need to go to the cantina for food or some drinks and stuff like that. I want to put a coaster in this land to give it that e-ticket attraction. So I always feel like a land needs maybe like 4 things. So it needs, oh yeah, four to 3 things. So maybe like it needs at least a flat ride. It needs a restaurant and restroom, and then your main attraction, a roller coaster or a pretty big dark ride or something, to give it that full complete way of, I think, a land should be. It's kind of how Disneyland, kind of how they design their lands, that you walk into, let's say Frontierland. Frontierland's e-ticket attraction is Big Thunder Mountain. Your like little rides would be the Mark Twain and or the Shooting Gallery. Over here, I like this idea because the break room that's over the red one is too far now. So I'm expanding this way. I needed a secondary break room, so I decided to put on the second floor of the cantina. Now I like doing things like this. I've done this before. I've done a second floor break room on a campaign map, the original campaign map. I think it's called Archipelago Adventures. I did it on that map too, which I haven't showed you guys in a showcase, but maybe that will come later. Over here will be a restroom, because I need a restroom in new land. Don't have a name for this land, but it's kind of Tatooine inspired, so we can make it up some type of new different outpost or some type of alien outpost or something. I'll figure something out, but adding details like this and things like that, and giving this like some character, because these buildings do have its own characteristics so adding little outcrops of buildings and then adding different styles of roofs. Using mixes of roofs actually helps in like that sci-fi feel, or having that just out of this world look, because we don't know what a sci-fi world will look like. We don't know what an alien world will look like. So you kind of have to kind of make it up in your head. And that's kind of what you do with pieces. And don't use pieces as they are intended. Like, don't use wooden walls as wooden walls. Maybe you could change the color, and that represents a different type of material. Because color can showcase a different type of material, maybe. That's just kind of how my thought process goes. And using different materials, like those pillars that I'm using, the round ones, those are just stone pillars. But they could be made of wood, they could be made of plastic, plaster, I don't know, they can be made of anything. So just finishing up the restroom, adding some more rocks, maybe like Tatooine rocks. The rocks in this map I made blue, I don't know why, I just thought blue is an alien color, so might as well make it blue. But I'm going to make this section a little different, like it's like a little snippet of Tatooine or something. Yeah, maybe that would be the idea. Maybe some like I need to maybe put in a mountain range in the back to simulate maybe where the coaster could go. See, talking to you guys like this kind of gives me ideas to continue working on the map, because I kind of lose ideas as I play in the map. I'm like, oh, I'm content, I'm done, but then it's not done. It's kind of just like half full or a quarter full. Like this map's not even close to being done, and the goals are barely met. I think I've met one goal so far. It might flash up on the screen, I don't know. No, I don't. I might have finished like one goal, maybe like 300 guests or something. Yeah, no, 150 guests was one of the goals, so I already finished one of those. So money's not an issue, as you can tell. I like $10,000. I can do whatever I want at this point. 368 making monthly, yeah, see, not a big deal. And so that could be a problem where you feel so comfortable that money's not an issue that you're like, okay, well, I can do anything I want, so I don't have to do anything. Well, no, I'm going to try to finish this map, show you what else I can add to this sci-fi world. Delta-5 needs some other things. A mining facility would be cool, like a sci-fi space colony mining facility or something. So adding more towers, you can see here. I'm trying to decide to make different types of shapes of towers, so I tried this out with cylinders off on the corners, edges of it. I think that was a cool idea. And I like the idea. I still like the idea of having that break room on the break room on the second floor. I might do that maybe for the training building. Maybe that'll be cool. Actually, I think that would be a cool idea to kind of do that on a second building or something. I think it'd be cool. So adding some of these flying saucer pieces, they work well as like some type of like Tatooine. It looks like Tatooine from a distance. If you're like quick on going through it, you're like, oh, this is Tatooine. It could be. Adding more details. Those what are those called? Chimneys. Yes, they're called chimneys. I should know this. Using those a lot is a good way to add like outcrops on your building, or adding like some type of stone structure or stuff like that. Using them not as intended. That's a cool way to go. I've seen people use these as like bridge supports, or they used them as like windows. I've used them as windows. Here's some AC units that I had pre-blueprinted from a previous project. Kind of use things from other projects, stuff like that. Adding this overhang roof. This is only possible with Anarchy. I like that I can make it just overhang just a little bit to give it that different look, because in a grid-based game, everything looks the same because it's on the grid. So I try to make little corners or divots in the building to give it that different characteristics. So here I'm going to wall off the staircase to the second floor so that it does give me those bad ratings. That actually blocks the ratings. So this is so far going to be part 1 of Delta-5, and I will probably hopefully get to the maybe part 2? I don't want to make this too long because I have other projects and videos I want to showcase to you guys. Like, I want to do a prop video showing you guys how to build a prop or something. So I will finish up here, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this long video of so far my playthrough of Delta-5, and I will see you guys in the next video.